Right now, the smartest minds on Wall Street are basically using supercomputers to map the global economy. I mean, they are running incredibly dense algorithmic codes.
Oh, absolutely. Petabytes of data.
Right. Analyzing petabytes of data, executing high-frequency trades in, like, fractions of a microsecond.
Yeah.
But what if I told you that the actual, the foundational formula they use to build real wealth?
The bedrock stuff.
Exactly. The bedrock of massive 401k accounts, venture capital frameworks, generational fortunes. What if that wasn't invented in a modern boardroom?
Right.
What if it was actually perfected, I don't know, 6,000 years ago by guys wearing sandals in the middle of the desert?
It sounds crazy, but it's true.
Because today we are tearing apart the ancient blueprints of Babylon in this deep dive.
It really is the ultimate paradox of modern finance, isn't it?
Totally.
Like, we are constantly conditioned to believe that money is this hyper-modern, endlessly evolving, highly complicated beast.
Yeah, like you need a PhD to understand it.
Right. We have cryptocurrencies, complex derivatives, algorithmic trading. But when you strip away the technology and the jargon, the actual mechanics of accumulating and multiplying capital are shockingly ancient.
They just haven't changed.
They haven't changed in millennia.
And that is the exact premise of our deep dive today. We are looking at George S. Clason's legendary 1926 book, The Richest Man in Babylon.
A classic.
Such a classic. For the uninitiated, Clason wrote a series of financial parables set in ancient Babylon, which was, historically speaking, the absolute wealthiest city of the ancient world.
Just a total marvel of engineering and commerce.
Right. But, Clason didn't write a history book. He used this setting to outline what he called the universal and unchanging laws of money.
Which is exactly why our mission today isn't to just, recap a bunch of quaint stories about chariot builders and camel traders.
No, we want the mechanics.
Exactly. We are going to extract Clason's core framework, specifically his 7 cures for a lean purse and his 5 laws of gold. We are going to rip them out of the 1920s, out of ancient Babylon, and we are going to aggressively apply them to today's U.S. economy.
I love it.
To modern investing strategies, behavioral psychology, and entrepreneurship.
Okay, let's unpack this, because I promise you, this conversation is going to challenge some of your most deeply held assumptions about hard work.
It really will.
It's going to challenge what you think it actually means to earn a living and how passive income is really generated. So let's start with the trap.
The big one.
Yeah, the book sets up this core problem that almost every ambitious person faces at some point. It's the illusion of hard work.
It is a pervasive, devastating illusion. And Clason illustrates it brilliantly right at the beginning of the book.
With Bansir and Cubby.
Yes, 2 characters who feel incredibly familiar to anyone operating in the modern workforce.
Let's look at their situation because it's just so relatable. Bansir is a chariot builder. His best friend, Colby, is a musician, and they're completely exhausted. They're working from dawn to dusk. And the book explicitly notes that Bansir isn't some hack, right?
No, he's highly skilled.
He is described as building the finest chariots any man could make. He is putting in the hours, honing his craft, delivering incredible value.
But he's broke.
Exactly. We meet him sitting on the wall outside his house, totally despondent because he has absolutely nothing to show for it.
Yeah.
He and Cobby are literally eating sour goat's milk and porridge while they watch the incredible opulent wealth of Babylon parade right past them on the streets.
And this leads to Bansir's moment of clarity, which is, honestly, it's a structural breakdown of the human ego.
Oh, totally.
He says, in effect, I have labored for years hoping the gods would recognize my worthy deeds and bestow prosperity upon me.
But they haven't.
Right. They haven't, and they never will. He's realizing that a high income, or fat purse as they call it, quickly empties out if there isn't a continuous golden stream to refill it.
Yeah.
He's waking up to the reality that his labor alone is not a wealth-generating engine.
But wait, let's translate this. Because Bansir and Cobby aren't just ancient archetypes. They are the modern American upper middle class, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, I read this opening chapter and immediately thought of the hen rise.
High earner, not rich yet.
Exactly. I'm thinking about, the Silicon Valley software engineer or the junior Wall Street analyst or the specialized physician making $250,000 or $300,000 a year.
Which is a massive income.
Huge. On paper, they are crushing it. They are in the top percentile of earners. But they were living completely paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
They are trapped in this massive illusion that high labor output automatically equates to wealth. Is Bansir essentially a 1920s proxy for a modern tech worker who is heavily leveraged on a massive mortgage and a leased Porsche?
He absolutely is. But let's dive into the structural mechanics of why that happens, because Bansir's problem isn't laziness.
Right, he works incredibly hard.
He does.
Yeah.
His problem is a fundamental misunderstanding of capital. He is doing what the vast majority of Americans are actively trained to do from childhood.
Which is?
He is trading his time for money. He is operating purely in the realm of active income.
Right, he builds a chariot, he gets paid, he stops building, the money stops.
Precisely. And in financial terms, he is confusing a high active income with high net worth.
Two completely different things.
Radically different. Net worth is the accumulation of compounding assets. Active income is just a temporary cash flow. And corporate America, quite frankly, weaponizes this hard work narrative against the Bansirs of the world.
Oh, they totally do.
The entire culture, from the education system to corporate management, tells you that if you just put in more hours, if you just get that next promotion...
Just hit your KPIs.
Exactly. Hit your KPIs, build a slightly better chariot, and eventually you will be wealthy. But Clason's pointing out that labor alone cannot create wealth.
It's the treadmill. You run faster, you get promoted, you get paid a little more, but the treadmill just speeds up to match your new pace.
Yeah, the incline goes up.
Right. You never actually get off the machine.
Because you aren't converting that active income into capital. If you don't build that golden stream, what we would call passive income or investment returns from appreciating assets, you remain a highly paid laborer.
Yeah.
The moment you get sick or you want to retire or, an economic downturn hits and people stop buying chariots, your income drops to zero.
So Bansir and Cobby have this realization. They realize the treadmill is a scam, and they decide they need an education.
Yes.
They go to their childhood friend, Arkad, who is the richest man in all of Babylon. And what I love about Arkad is that he isn't some miserly Scrooge McDuck character sitting on a pile of gold in a dark room.
No, not at all.
He spends liberally, he takes care of his family, he gives generously to charity. But his wealth is a machine. It just keeps growing faster than his lavish lifestyle can drain it.
And when Bansir and Cobby confront him and ask, why did the gods favor you and not us? We grew up together. We played in the same streets. Why are you rich?
Yeah, what's his answer?
Arkad is brutally honest. He strips away all the mythology. He tells them that wealth is simply a power that multiplies the enjoyment of life. But then he delivers the gut punch.
I love this part.
He says, as for time, all men have it in abundance. You have let slip by sufficient time to have made yourselves wealthy.
Ouch. He's basically saying, we all have the exact same 24 hours in a day. You just spent yours building chariots and complaining, while I spent mine learning the laws of capital.
It's a very harsh reality check regarding opportunity cost. Arkad is shifting the locus of control entirely back onto them.
Taking away the excuses.
Exactly. He refuses to let them blame the gods or luck or their upbringing. He says the difference is purely educational. They haven't used their time to learn the laws of wealth. And more importantly, they haven't had the discipline to execute them.
Which transitions us perfectly into the tactical core of the book. Arkad agrees to teach a class to the citizens of Babylon, outlining his 7 cures for a lean purse. And I want to spend real time here because this is where the philosophy has to turn into mechanics. How does someone who is completely broke, who is stuck on that treadmill, actually acquire the seed capital to start building an empire?
The transition from 0 to 1 is always the hardest part in any financial journey.
Always.
It requires a fundamental shift in behavior. And Arkad's first cure addresses this directly. He tells the class, start thy purse to fattening.
Okay.
The rule he lays out is incredibly simple, but almost universally ignored today. Save a minimum of 1/10, 10% of all your earnings.
Pay yourself first. I mean, we hear this everywhere. It's the most cliche advice in personal finance.
It sounds cliche, but Clason wasn't just giving a math lesson. He was dropping a massive psychological revelation.
How so?
Arkad notes a very strange phenomenon that occurs when you actually execute this. He tells his students that when he started strictly saving 10% of everything he earned, he found that he managed to get along just as well on the remaining 90%. Right. He wasn't any shorter on cash for his daily needs than he was when he was spending 100%.
Okay, I have to jump in and play devil's advocate here.
No.
Because this is the exact moment where a lot of listeners are going to roll their eyes. They're going to say, that's cute advice from a 1920s author writing about ancient Babylon.
Sure.
But try telling a gig worker in San Francisco or New York who is paying $3,000 a month for a tiny studio apartment, dealing with massive grocery inflation, and paying off student loans to just magically save 10%.
Yeah, it feels impossible.
The math doesn't work.
Yeah.
The 10% rule is inherently privileged, right?
It's a completely fair pushback. If we look at it purely through a mathematical lens, yes, a baseline level of income is required for survival.
You can't budget $0 for food.
Right. But Arkad's first cure, and specifically how it links to his second cure, isn't actually about math. It's about behavioral economics.
Okay, what's the second cure?
His second cure is control thy expenditures. And he drops one of the most profound truths in the entire book to answer your exact objection.
Lay it on me.
He says, what each of us calls our necessary expenses will always grow to equal our incomes unless we protest to the contrary.
Wow. That is fascinating. He's saying that our definition of necessary is entirely subjective and scales with our wallet.
Exactly. In modern behavioral economics, we call this Parkinson's law.
Okay, yeah.
The original Parkinson's law states that work expands to fill the time available for its completion. Give someone a week to write a report, it takes a week. Give them a month, it takes a month.
I've definitely done that.
We all have. The financial corollary to this is that human desires and expenses expand to fill the income available to them.
Lifestyle creep. It's the classic American consumer trap.
Exactly.
Let's look at how this actually plays out. You're 24 years old, you're out of college, you're making $50,000 a year, and you share an apartment with 2 roommates.
Right.
You eat a lot of pasta, you drive a 10-year-old Honda Civic,
Yeah.
and you survive. You feel broke, but you survive.
You make it work.
5 years later, you get a massive promotion. You are now making $90,000 a year. By all logic, you should have $40,000 of pure surplus. But what happens?
The definition of necessary shifts. Suddenly, having roommates isn't tenable anymore, so you rent a one-bedroom apartment in a nicer building.
Right. And the Honda Civic suddenly feels a little unsafe, or it doesn't match your new title at work, so you lease a Tesla or a BMW.
Yep.
You stop eating pasta and start ordering Uber Eats from artisanal restaurants 4 nights a week. Your necessary expenses magically, almost invisibly, absorb every single dollar of that new income.
This is driven by a psychological concept known as conspicuous consumption.
Okay.
Using discretionary income to buy goods that signal social status rather than fulfill fundamental needs. And the brilliant thing about Arkad's 10% rule is that it acts as a structural defense against this.
By forcing the issue.
Exactly. By paying yourself first, by removing that 10% right off the top before you even have a chance to look at it, you are creating artificial scarcity.
You are tricking your own brain.
You are. You force your lifestyle to fit into a smaller container. You are telling your brain, I don't make $90,000. I only have $81,000 to survive on.
Right.
And human beings are incredibly adaptable creatures. If you force the constraint, your brain will figure out how to make that 90% work. You will subconsciously adjust your definition of necessity downward.
It's the exact same mentality that the best startup founders use.
Oh, absolutely.
Like when a good tech startup raises a Series A round of funding, let's say they get $10 million, the smart founders don't immediately go out and lease a massive penthouse office in Manhattan and buy $1,500 Herman Miller chairs for everyone.
If they do, they fail.
Right. They operate lean. They keep their burn rate artificially low to extend their runway. Arkad is essentially telling us to treat our personal household finances like a lean startup.
That's a great analogy.
You budget the 90% to cover the absolute necessities and a few enjoyments, but you defend that 10% with your life.
And we have to acknowledge how incredibly hostile the modern U.S. economy is to this concept.
It's an uphill battle.
It really is. The system is quite literally engineered to destroy Arkad's second cure. Look at the landscape. Targeted social media advertising powered by algorithms that know your exact psychological weaknesses.
Yeah, they know what you want before you do.
Frictionless checkout with Apple Pay. Buy now, pay later services integrated into everything.
Klarna, Afterpay, yeah.
The entire consumer ecosystem is perfectly optimized to make you spend not just 100% of your income, but 110% of your income through easy credit.
Which is terrifying.
Yeah.
It takes tremendous willpower to fight against a multi-trillion-dollar marketing machine.
Willpower isn't enough.
Right. So mechanically, how do you actually fight back if human willpower is notoriously weak?
You remove human willpower from the equation entirely.
Automation.
Exactly. You automate the artificial scarcity. The modern translation of start thy purse to fattening is setting up your payroll to automatically route a percentage of your income directly into a 401k or a separate brokerage account before the money ever touches your primary checking account.
So it's gone before you can spend it.
If you never see the money in your available balance, you cannot spend it. You automate your wealth creation so that it occurs by default, not by relying on daily discipline.
Okay, I love this. We are automating our defense. We are enforcing artificial scarcity. We are defeating lifestyle creep, and our purse is finally starting to get fat.
We have seed capital.
We are accumulating a pile of cash. But let's look at the limitations of this. If I just take that 10% and stick it in a coffee can in my backyard, or more realistically, if I leave it sitting in a standard big bank checking account yielding 0.01%, I'm not actually building wealth.
No, you're not.
In fact, inflation is destroying it.
Which brings us to a critical pivot point in Clason's framework. This is the transition from playing defense to playing offense.
Okay, let's talk offense.
Hoarding money might satisfy a miser, but it doesn't build a fortune. Arkad's third cure is make thy gold multiply.
Make it work.
Yes. He argues that the gold sitting in a purse earns nothing. The real wealth isn't the pile of gold itself. The real wealth is the continuous earnings that the gold generates.
And this is where we need to dive into the mechanics of inflation, because I don't think people truly understand how destructive it is to hoard cash.
It's silent theft.
It is. If you just leave your money sitting there, it doesn't just lose value in some abstract way.
Yeah.
Think of your cash as an ice cube sitting in the palm of your hand on a warm day.
Good visual.
You can squeeze your hand as tightly as you want. You can protect that ice cube perfectly, but the ambient temperature, which is inflation, is going to melt it.
Slowly but surely.
A year from now, you might still have the ice cube, but 5% or 10% of its mass has just vanished into thin air. It buys less food, it buys less housing.
That is a highly accurate metaphor. To combat the melting ice cube, the money has to be put to work. And I want to look at the specific language Clason uses here, because it's incredibly visceral.
What does he say?
Arkad says, make it your slave. Make its children and its children's children work for you.
Dollar employees. That is the perfect way to think about it. Every single dollar you save is an employee that never sleeps, never takes a sick day, and works 247 to recruit more employees.
It is the ultimate literary distillation of compound interest.
Yeah.
Arkad illustrates this by explaining how he loaned out his money to a shield maker who bought bronze. And when the shield maker paid him back with interest, which Arkad refers to as the rental, Arkad didn't take that interest and spend it on a lavish feast.
Which is what most people would do.
Exactly. Oh, I made some money, let me go celebrate. But he didn't. He reinvested the rental along with the original principal. So the capital base increases, which means the next round of earnings on that capital is even larger.
Right.
This is also codified in his second law of gold. Gold labors diligently and multiplies like flocks of the field for the wise owner who finds it profitable employment.
Okay, but hold on. The math of compound interest is taught in middle school. It's not a secret.
No, it's very basic math.
If it's this simple, if the math is so mathematically undeniable, why are there trillions of dollars sitting in low-yield checking accounts right now? Why do so many incredibly smart, highly educated people fail to execute this?
Because of a fundamental flaw in human neurology. We touched on behavioral economics earlier, but this is about cognitive processing.
How so?
The human brain is simply not wired to intuitively grasp exponential growth. Throughout our evolutionary history, almost everything we interacted with was linear.
1 to 1.
Exactly. If I take 1 step, I move 1 meter. If I take 10 steps, I move 10 meters. If I hunt for 1 hour, I get 1 hour's worth of food. That is linear thinking. But wealth, when invested, builds exponentially. And exponential curves completely break our intuition.
It's the old 30 steps analogy, right?
Let's hear it.
If you take 30 linear steps, you are roughly 30 meters away from where you started. You walked across the yard.
Simple enough.
But if you take 30 exponential steps, meaning you double your distance with every single step, 1 meter, 2 meters, 4, 8, 16. By the 30th step, you haven't gone 30 meters. You have traveled 1 billion meters.
Which is insane to think about.
You have walked around the Earth 26 times.
Yeah.
Our brains cannot process the difference between step 29 and step 30.
Exactly. And because we are trapped in linear thinking, we get incredibly frustrated during the early stages of wealth accumulation.
Because it looks linear at first.
Yes. Let's look at the mechanics of this in the modern stock market. Let's say a listener takes Arkad's advice. They automate a $500 monthly investment into a broadly diversified S&P 500 index fund.
Okay, a very standard, highly recommended wealth building strategy.
Right. Historically, that might return around 8% to 10% annually over long periods, but let's look at the emotional reality of executing it.
It's a grind.
It is. For the first 5 to 10 years, it feels agonizingly slow. You are sacrificing $500 a month, you are driving the older car, you are skipping the luxury vacations.
And when you look at your portfolio, it's growing, but it doesn't feel life-changing.
Exactly. The children haven't reproduced enough yet to create massive momentum. It feels like a massive sacrifice for very little reward. That first decade is what we call the boring middle.
And that's exactly where people quit.
Yep.
They look at their account in year 6, they see it hasn't made them a millionaire, they get frustrated by linear expectations, and they pull the money out to buy a boat.
Which completely resets the compounding clock. You kill the curve, but if you don't interrupt it, if you have the discipline to push through the linear frustration, the exponential curve eventually kicks in violently.
Step 29 to step 30.
Exactly. By year 20, 30, or 40, the math goes crazy. At that point, the interest you're earning in a single year dwarfs the entire amount of principal you contributed over the first 2 decades combined.
Wow.
The children's children are now an absolute army working for you.
If we want to point to the ultimate modern embodiment of this Babylonian mechanism, it has to be Warren Buffett, right?
Oh, the perfect example.
I mean, look at Berkshire Hathaway. It is not just a company. It is a giant, perfectly tuned machine designed to execute the third cure.
Berkshire Hathaway is the flocks of the field principle on a global scale.
Exactly. Buffett's entire methodology is acquiring cash-generating assets. Massive insurance floats, railroads, utilities, huge stakes in consumer brands like Apple or Coca-Cola.
Right.
And when those companies generate cash flow or pay dividends, the rental, Buffett doesn't spend it. He takes those billions of dollars in dividends and immediately uses them to buy even more cash-generating assets.
He never, ever spends the children.
Never.
And the timeline of his wealth perfectly illustrates the exponential curve we just discussed. A lot of people don't realize this, but more than 90% of Warren Buffett's massive net worth was accumulated after his 65th birthday.
That is staggering. Let that sink in.
It proves that the real magic of compounding only happens at the very end of the curve, after decades of unbroken reinvestment. Now, for the average listener, you don't need to go out and buy a railroad to execute this. In the modern era, your flock of the field is a low-cost, broad-market index fund.
Like an S&P 500 ETF.
Exactly. When you buy into the S&P 500, you own a fractional slice of the 500 largest companies in America. When they innovate, when they sell products, when they pay dividends, that money is automatically reinvested to buy you more shares.
You are harnessing the aggregate labor and innovation of the entire U.S. economy.
It's brilliant.
Okay, so let's summarize the state of play. You have enforced artificial scarcity, you are saving your 10%, you've defeated lifestyle creep, and you have unleashed your army of dollar employees into the market to compound exponentially.
You're doing everything right.
You are on the path. But here is exactly where most ambitious people, and I'm talking about smart, high-achieving people, lose it all.
Yes, they do.
They get bored, they get impatient,
Yeah.
they look at that slow 10-year curve, and they decide they want to skip steps.
The transition from wealth accumulation back to wealth preservation. This is where Arkad introduces his fourth cure, which is heavily echoed in his third, fourth, and fifth laws of gold.
What's the fourth cure?
The fourth cure is explicitly clear. Guard thy treasures from loss.
And he doesn't mince words. He warns his students against being misled by their own romantic desires to make wealth rapidly.
Romantic desire, such a great phrase.
It is. He explicitly states that the penalty of extreme risk is probable loss. And when I read this, I immediately thought about modern get-rich-quick culture, because we are absolutely surrounded by it right now. It is ubiquitous.
It's the gamification of finance.
Totally. People chasing meme stocks on Reddit, or massively leveraging an options portfolio, or taking their life savings and throwing it into a buddy's unproven tech startup because they watch an episode of Shark Tank and want to be an angel investor.
It's so dangerous.
But let me challenge Arkad here for a second. Let me push back on this. Doesn't massive wealth require massive risk?
What do you mean?
Look at the modern American economy. Silicon Valley was quite literally built on taking massive, unprecedented, borderline crazy risks. Elon Musk risked every penny he made from PayPal to fund SpaceX and Tesla when both were on the brink of bankruptcy.
True.
So if guarding your treasure from loss is the supreme rule, how do we explain the billionaires who risked it all?
It's a great question, but you are conflating two entirely different types of risk here.
Okay, explain.
We need to distinguish between calculated asymmetric risk, which is what professional venture capitalists and successful entrepreneurs do, and absolute gambling.
Which is the retail investor.
Right. Gambling is what the average retail investor does when they get impatient.
Unpack that mechanism. How is an angel investor losing money on a startup different from my buddy blowing his savings on a dog-themed crypto coin? Aren't both just playing the odds?
Not at all. Let's look at the mechanics of venture capital. A top-tier VC firm might invest in 100 highly risky tech startups. They know, mathematically and historically, that 90 of those companies will go completely to zero. They are embracing a 90% failure rate.
Right.
But they also know that the remaining 10 companies might return 100x or 1000x their initial investment. The sheer scale of those few massive wins more than covers the 90 losses and generates a massive net profit for the overall fund.
The winners pay for the losers.
Exactly. That is a calculated, mathematically structured, asymmetric risk spread across a highly diversified portfolio. They also have deep due diligence, board seats, and influence over the outcome.
They aren't just crossing their fingers.
Exactly. But when the average retail investor takes 50% of their net worth and dumps it into a single speculative cryptocurrency or a highly leveraged options play because they saw a hype video on social media,
They're just praying it goes up.
they aren't acting like a VC. They don't have inside information. They don't have board control. And they aren't diversified. They are acting like they're at a roulette table in Vegas, putting everything on red.
They are risking ruin. If the VC startup fails, the fund survives. If the retail investor's crypto coin goes to zero, their financial life is over.
And this is exactly what Arkad's laws of gold address. The fourth law says, gold slips away from the man who invests it in businesses or purposes with which he is not familiar.
Stick to what you know.
Yes. The fifth law is even stronger. Gold flees the man who would force it to impossible earnings, or who followeth the alluring advice of tricksters and schemers, or who trusts it to his own inexperience and romantic desires in investment.
He is basically begging his students not to try and outsmart the market.
Because the math of compounding is incredibly disproportionately sensitive to loss. People do not understand the sheer arithmetic devastation of losing capital.
It's so hard to recover.
Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's longtime partner who just recently passed away, had a very famous rule about this. He said the first rule of compounding is to never interrupt it unnecessarily.
Walk us through that math. Why is a loss so much worse than a missed gain?
Let's say you have a portfolio of $100,000, and you take a massive speculative risk, and your portfolio drops by 50%. You now have $50,000.
Painful, but okay. You lost 50 grand.
Most people intuitively think, okay, I lost 50%, so I just need a 50% gain to get back to where I started.
Right, that makes logical sense.
But that's mathematically false. If your $50,000 grows by 50%, you only get back to $75,000. To get back to your original $100,000, you don't need a 50% gain. You need a 100% gain just to break even.
Oh, wow.
Exactly. You have to double your money just to get back to the starting line. And how long does it take the average market to double your money? 7 to 10 years.
You lose a decade.
Losing a massive chunk of your principal doesn't just lose you money. It literally steals a decade of your compounding timeline. You are slaughtering your army of dollar slaves before they even have a chance to reproduce.
And the psychological devastation is just as bad as the math. Contrast two different investors. Investor A is boring. They are dollar cost averaging into a total stock market index fund. Month after month, decade after decade. They don't check their phone every 5 minutes.
Sleeping well at night.
Exactly. When the market dips 20% in a recession, they might feel a little anxious, but their principal security, meaning their fractional ownership of thousands of profitable cash-flowing global companies, is largely intact.
Right.
Investor B decides to day trade options to try and get rich in a year. They wipe out their entire life savings in a week. The emotional toll of having to start over from zero in your 40s or 50s is crushing.
Which is why Arkad advises consulting what he calls wise men. He says, invest under the advice of men skilled in handling gold.
But who are the wise men today?
Well, we have to translate that for the modern era. Today, a wise man doesn't mean a self-proclaimed crypto guru on YouTube promising 10,000% returns.
Or a guy in a rented Lamborghini selling a course on dropshipping.
Precisely. In today's terms, seeking wise men means relying on mathematically proven financial frameworks. It means, if you need advice, consulting a fiduciary.
Someone legally bound to help you.
Yes. A certified financial planner who is legally bound to act in your best financial interest rather than a broker who makes commissions by selling you expensive mutual funds. It means trusting the collective aggregate wisdom of the global market rather than trusting your own romantic desire to outsmart it.
Okay, this is brilliant. Let's pull back and look at the architectural blueprint we've built so far.
Okay.
We are saving a portion of our income. We are fiercely guarding our baseline and controlling lifestyle creep. We are investing that surplus consistently so it compounds exponentially over time. And we are violently protecting our principal from stupid risks and our own greed.
It's a solid system.
But let me play devil's advocate again.
Go for it.
The system works, yes, but it is ultimately bounded by how much water is flowing into the top of the funnel.
Meaning the size of your active income.
Right. If I make $40,000 a year, my 10% savings rate is $4,000 a year. Even with the magic of compounding, investing $4,000 a year is going to take 40 years to mean anything substantial.
Yeah.
What do I do if my baseline income is simply too low? How do we scale this operation?
That is the perfect pivot, and it brings us to the final cures, which focus heavily on human capital and future-proofing.
Okay.
Arkad's sixth cure is Insure a future income. He tells his students to provide in advance for the needs of their growing age and the protection of their families.
This maps so seamlessly to modern American financial planning. We have tools to execute the sixth cure that the Babylonians couldn't even conceptualize.
Like what?
We have tax-advantaged accounts like Roth IRAs and 401ks that shield our investments from the government. We have health savings accounts to prepare for medical costs.
Right.
We have term life insurance to protect our families against catastrophic downside risk if we were to pass away unexpectedly. Arkad is basically saying, assume that you will get old, and assume that your ability to generate active labor will eventually stop.
You must build the architecture to support you when you can no longer build chariots.
Exactly.
But to answer your question about the top of the funnel, how to scale when your income is low, we look to the seventh cure, which is arguably the most actionable and aggressive cure in the book.
What is it?
Increase thy ability to earn. Clason writes, "In the strength of thine own desires is a magic power." He is talking about increasing your own intrinsic value in the marketplace.
And I want to tie this seventh cure to a really fascinating, deeper philosophical discussion that happens later in the book regarding the nature of luck.
Yes.
Because when we talk about increasing income, people often attribute huge leaps in wealth to luck. There is a whole chapter where Arkad and other men are sitting around debating what luck actually is.
It's one of the best chapters in the book.
It is. And during this debate, a swarthy man of the desert, a camel trader named Davasir, speaks up. And he says something that completely redefines the concept.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
He says, good luck waits to come to that man who accepts opportunity. Is it fair to say that to the Babylonians, luck was never about divine intervention or winning a lottery?
No, not at all.
Luck was viewed as the mathematical, inevitable outcome of being prepared when an opportunity finally presented itself.
That is exactly it. It raises such an important question about how we view success today. We look at successful entrepreneurs or executives or investors, and the cynical view is to dismiss their wealth as pure luck.
Oh, he just got lucky.
Right. And yes, serendipity exists. Randomness exists in the universe. But the book makes a compelling case that true, sustainable luck is engineered. It is the architecture of intense preparation intersecting with a moment of opportunity.
The story of Davasir, the camel trader who makes that quote, is the ultimate proof of this concept. I want to spend some time on his story because it is incredibly moving and relevant to the modern debt crisis.
Davasir's story proves that the mathematical laws of gold apply no matter how deep of a hole you have dug for yourself. Let's look at his trajectory.
Where does he start?
He starts off making terrible decisions. He borrows money he can't repay to fund a lifestyle he can't afford, which is the antithesis of the second cure.
Breaking the rules.
He gets so deep in debt that he flees Babylon, gets captured, and is sold into slavery in Syria.
He hits absolute rock bottom. There is this visceral description where he realizes he is literally sitting in the dirt, eating raw scraps with the camels, while his master sits nearby eating a beautifully roasted goat leg.
Brutal.
He has lost his freedom, his dignity, everything.
Most people in that situation would surrender. They would blame the gods, or they would wait for a random stroke of luck to save them.
But he doesn't.
No, Davasir doesn't rely on hope. He relies on mechanics. He realizes that he has the soul of a free man, but he is trapped by his own financial ignorance. So he escapes, he makes a treacherous journey across the desert, and he returns to Babylon.
And what he does next is the blueprint for getting out of debt. He doesn't hide. He actively seeks out every single person he owes money to.
He faces his creditors.
He faces them. He tells them, I am broke, but I am going to pay you back. And he begins applying the laws. He works tirelessly. He saves his 10%. He uses a strict percentage to pay down his debts systematically, and he lives on the meager remainder.
He mathematically engineers his own redemption.
He goes from a slave eating with camels to one of the wealthiest traders in Babylon, simply by adhering to the formula.
And you see this exact same theme with Nomasir, who is Arkad's son. This is another crucial story in the book. Arkad is the richest man in Babylon, but he refuses to just blindly hand his massive fortune over to his son.
Which is brilliant estate planning, by the way.
It really is. Arkad understands that giving a fortune to someone who hasn't built the mental architecture to manage it is a curse, not a gift.
It'll just destroy them.
Exactly. So he sends Nomasir away to Nineveh for 10 years to prove himself. He gives him a bag of gold and a clay tablet with the laws of wealth written on it.
And Nomasir immediately fails. He ignores the tablet. He falls for the romantic desires we talked about. He trusts tricksters. He invests in a rigged horse race. He buys into a business he doesn't understand. And he loses almost everything.
He violates the 4th and 5th laws of gold, and the gold flees from him exactly as the laws dictate. But, just like Debasir, Nomasir hits rock bottom and decides to actually read the tablet.
Finally.
He learns the laws, he applies them, he saves his 10%, he invests wisely, and over the remaining years, he builds his own independent fortune. When he returns to his father 10 years later, he is ready for opportunity. He has engineered his own luck.
Which brings us all the way back to the modern application of the 7th cure, increasing your ability to earn. In the modern knowledge-based economy, your human capital, meaning your specific skills, your network, your problem-solving ability, your accumulated knowledge, is far and away your most valuable asset.
Unquestionably.
If you are frustrated by the top of your funnel, if your 10% savings rate feels agonizingly small, you shouldn't just try to cut your expenses to the bone.
No, you can't shrink your way to wealth.
You can only cut expenses so far before you hit a baseline of misery. At a certain point, you have to raise your income ceiling.
And you do that by making yourself more valuable to the marketplace.
Right. You learn how to code, you learn high-ticket sales, you take a course on project management, you learn how to manage and inspire teams. In today's landscape, it means actively learning how to leverage artificial intelligence to multiply your daily output.
You make yourself irreplaceable.
Exactly.
Look at the corporate world. Look at the most successful CEOs in the U.S. right now. Look at Satya Nadella taking over Microsoft or Tim Cook at Apple. These are massive trillion-dollar organizations.
Yeah.
But they don't just sit back and rest on their previous successes. They don't just say, well, Windows is doing great, let's just ride this out. They constantly, aggressively adapt their companies to capture new opportunities.
They upskill the whole company.
Exactly. Nadella saw the future and completely shifted Microsoft's entire focus to cloud computing with Azure, and now he is aggressively positioning them at the forefront of AI.
And Apple transitioned from just selling iPhones to building a massive recurring revenue services ecosystem and wearables.
Right. They are constantly increasing the corporate entity's ability to earn.
And for the individual listener tuning into this deep dive, the takeaway is that you need to treat yourself, your career, your skill set, like a publicly traded company.
Are you investing in your own R&D?
Exactly. Are you allocating capital to buy books, take specialized courses, or attend industry conferences? Because the math of the 7th cure is explosive when you combine it with the 3rd cure.
Walk us through that.
Think about it. The more you increase your active income, the larger the absolute dollar amount of that 10% you save. If you make $50K, your 10% is $5,000.
Okay.
If you upskill and start making $150K, your 10% is $15,000. That means you are deploying 3 times as many dollar employees into the market every single year, which means your compounding curve accelerates massively.
It creates this unstoppable flywheel effect of wealth creation.
Exactly. You increase your earning power, which radically increases your savings capacity, which increases your investment principal, which explodes your exponential compounding.
That is how you engineer luck. That is how you build a Babylonian empire in the 21st century.
Okay, we have covered a massive amount of ground today. From the trap of the chariot builder to the psychology of lifestyle creep, the mathematics of compounding, the dangers of asymmetric ruin, and the architecture of luck.
We really ran the gamut.
So what does this all mean? If we distill this entire 60-minute deep dive down to its absolute essence, Clason's message is that wealth is not a secret. It's not magic. It is not divine intervention.
Yeah.
It is a highly systematic, mathematical, and psychological process. You keep a strict portion of everything you earn. You put that portion to work relentlessly. You fiercely protect it from your own greed and stupidity, and you constantly, relentlessly increase your own value in the marketplace.
For me, the most profound takeaway from revisiting this material is the realization that this book was written in 1926. And it is about a civilization that existed 6,000 years ago, yet it remains the ultimate, undisputed financial truth.
Why is that?
Because the one variable in economics that absolutely never changes is human nature. The markets change. We go from trading bronze shields to trading microchips.
Right.
Technology evolves, tax codes are rewritten, but human greed, impatience, the psychological tendency toward lifestyle creep,
It's all still there.
the desire to get rich quick without doing the work, those are eternal constants. The Babylonians struggled with them, the Americans of the Roaring Twenties struggled with them, and we are struggling with them right now.
Yeah.
The people who manage to conquer their own human nature are the ones who ultimately conquer their finances.
It all comes back to the foundation. The laws of gravity haven't changed in 6,000 years, and neither have the laws of money. So I want to leave you, the listener, with a final lingering concept to mull over as you go about the rest of your week. We talked extensively about creating an army of slaves, but let's modernize that language and apply it to your wallet right now. I want you to think of every single dollar you earn, not as a piece of paper and not as a digital number on a screen, but as a potential employee.
I love that framing.
Right now, look at your spending habits. Are you firing your dollar employees by trading them for things you don't actually need?
Buying liabilities.
Yeah. Are you trading them for a car you can't afford or a fleeting status symbol? Or are you putting those dollars on your payroll, sending them out into the global market to work for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, recruiting more dollars to join your army?
The choice is yours.
If you fundamentally change how you manage your dollar employees starting today, what will your personal empire look like 10 years from now?
A fantastic and highly challenging question to leave off on. The laws are there. Start building the architecture today.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Don't wait for the gods to reward your hard work. Go start fattening your purse right now. We'll see you next time.